Join us and celebrate 19 years of Talk City 91.1 FM. Calling all authors and book enthusiasts. It's time for Lit Chats on Talk City 91.1 FM.
Calling all the enthusiasts, of course. Welcome to Lit Chats. We are in for a treat today, folks. In my midst is Mr. Rubadiri Victor, who I'm a longtime friend, know you forever and ever. An amazing author as well. This is, I've been so excited to bring him onto the show because I've known him to do to showcase his work, not just in being an author, but also in the arts itself. And I mean, the list goes on. He is a true, what would you say, Natasha? Like a patron of the arts? An activist for the culture.
Yeah, and I think a guardian as well. For sure.
Guardian.
Mm-hmm. And a multifaceted creative.
Yes.
An inspiration. He's like, okay, everybody.
A smart man.
Oh, okay.
Nah, don't say that.
I don't mean it in a negative, but I hear it. I hear it now.
Yeah.
After it come out my mouth, I hear it. Right. Anyway, welcome to the show, Rubadiri.
All right, thanks so much for having me, Karen.
And I'm Natasha.
I'm in the studio. Two beautiful women to talk books.
Mm-hmm.
And his latest installment, I want to say it, Anansi in the Land of Monsters and Other Stories.
Yes. This is book 3 in the New Adventures of Anansi series. And as you know, like in this series, the New Adventures of Anansi is telling the story of the lineage of the Anansi family, right? So it starts with 7 books about the story of Anansi's grandmother as a young spider, which are these books that are going on right now. Then I will talk about his father for 7 books, and then there will be 7 books on Anansi. So we're into book 3 of 21, because I'm a crazy person and decided that there were going to be 21 books. But yes, and this female Anansi and her stories, and they're going exceptionally well. They sell very, very well, like thousands of books. They fly off the shelves, and so yeah. And I'm working on the next 4 all in one.
All in one, like simultaneously you're working on them?
Yeah, because there's so much the world building and stuff,
Yeah.
so I have to make sure that I drop the Easter eggs in this here and the clues in this one and that kind of stuff, and the characters that are going to be in number 7 have to be present, and,
right?
Like I have to set up everything, so it's.
I told you all he's an intelligent man, right? Okay, see that little
I have
better.
to ask this question because I've been dying to ask this question. I'm sorry.
Fine,
I'm
I had
talking
I had a question too, but go ahead.
You know him long time.
All right, fine, go.
I've been dying to ask this question because, of course, everybody knows about your books, and everybody talks everybody loads these books, right? And one of the things I've always wanted to ask, I mean, we know Anansi, we grew up with Anansi in our culture, but you have taken a different spin in some ways, let's say 21 books and looking at lineage. What inspired you to do this?
Right. Well, I was in love with Anansi since as a child. I have to credit Errol Jones, the great actor from Trinidad Theatre Workshop. He did a series at the GBU doing folklore, where he did all the stories and that kind of stuff, all the voices, all those kinds of things of all the animals. As a child of 4 years old, I heard that and just fell in love and learned to use a radio, learned how to, search for stuff on the band and that kind of stuff, turn it and that kind of stuff, learn what the time is that this thing is going to happen, and would curl up in front of the speaker every Saturday morning to listen to the stories of the animals. And so Anansi, I was always in love with reading literature, mythology, folklore as growing up as a child. But something about the character of Anansi and those stories of the animals always stuck with me. Growing up, I did a television series, folklore television series. And I had to do a lot of research. I went to the library and archives, read every single thing and listened to everything that they had. And there was a series of Anansi stories I was adapting for the screen. And all of a sudden I started to see this blue-garbed character with Adinkra symbols of a female Anansi standing, in my mind. And I was like, who the hell is this? Like, because I already kind of conceived of what Anansi might look like. And, I said, like, is that Anansi girl? Is that Anansi wife? Is mother? Who is this? And, you go inside and then, you figure, okay, this is Anansi's grandmother, and I'm being called upon to write her story and his lineage, and write her story as a young girl or young spider. And so it came from that vision, and a lot of the things have kind of come like that. And the first story came fully formed in my head. The words came, Anansi and the 10 Dragons, and then I had to go searching for the story, like what does this mean, So that's the story of how she arrived, and I'm playing catch up. She's leading me, this character's leading me.
That's beautiful. Okay, done.
I love. I'm. First of all, I'm impressed in how your thought process, your creative process is, allowing what I would call the muse, in a sense, to lead you. That's a lot of trust in that, and I admire it. I wanted to know, because you said, as you said at the beginning, 21 books. Is the goal. No, but it speaks to. Don't regret it. It's going to happen. I see it. And I said it, and it's going to happen. What is the fascination, do you believe, in the diaspora? Because this Anansi stories have been here. It's not, it's not a new phenomenon. It's not exclusive to the Caribbean. There is from Africa origins. Why has Anansi existed for so long?
All right, so for the layman out there who might not know, so Anansi is a spider. Anansi is the smartest animal in the forest, and normally he's a trickster figure. His actual name is Kwaku Anansi. And the stories of Anansi come down for us from the Ashanti people, or the Akan people of Ghana, of West Central Africa. Of course, through the traumas and the horrors of plantation slavery. There's literally thousands of Anansi stories on the continent, and only like a couple dozen have really survived.
Wow.
One is because of the violence, and because the whole point of plantation slavery is to kind of remove civilizational knowledge. But the other thing was that it was the choices of the ancestors. They chose certain stories because those stories contained strategies and information. And when I was doing the research, it was plain when I was looking at where things were retained in what villages, and there was one story that was retained in every single village in every single island. Wow. It's this story where Anansi wins the right to tell all the stories on the world, and he defeats tiger, bees, and snake. And in that story, you can see all the strategies. You can see every West Indian person. African, East Indian, Chinese, everybody, every Caribbean person has those traits in them. So it means that those stories succeeded. There's something in those stories that provided like incredible civilizational knowledge and strategies of survival and resistance in them. And that was the power of the thing. But the thing is that the Akan Ashanti people, they're the ones who kente cloth, Adinkra symbols, all those kinds of things. So there's something about the storytelling and the iconographic power of the Ashanti people. They have created a series of cultural tropes and icons, and those are things that have survived and have proliferated all over the planet. And so there's something about their ability in terms of storytelling and icon making, and Anansi is, probably like that the mother figure, father figure of that storytelling prowess, of West Africa and of those people, so, yeah.
The spider. I've always wondered, why a spider? I don't know if there's any significance, and I'm sorry if there isn't, but I just feel as if first of all, it's scary to children. So it always used to scare me, when I would see it.
I think it's the cunning of a spider, the ability to create your own house wherever you are.
Oh yes, that's
You
true.
know,
He's resourceful.
yeah. So the house is inside of you. You are the house. You know, and so that ability to then take that cunning, you know, so that wherever you are,
And adapt. It's
you can,
adaptable.
yeah, you have that complete improvisational power to create at any moment in any space and that kind of stuff, where you can hunt and live and mate and create community and those kinds of things in
And things
any
can change
space.
in a moment,
Yeah.
and they're able
And
to
that,
move quick.
that is the improvisational intelligence and wisdom of Anansi. Is that like is why, you know, like any situation he can get out of, any situation he could get into any situation, you know, and just improvise, and that is, in terms of African survival in the new world, that is what that chamber of ourselves is what has served us like exceptionally well. You know, like it's like Native American people probably didn't have quite that, you know, like chamber, like, you know, so it's like it's something about that chamber that is able to withstand, I mean, the kinds of genocidal kinds of things that people have been put through, and have been able to evade and dance through it and flip it into strengths and conquer and win, you know, despite, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think it's all of those things kind of contained in the mystery of the spider, you know. Yeah, and you know, the 8 arms, the kind of 8 pathways, and the ability to control multiple things at the same time, and yeah, all of those things.
Listen, I love that answer. It's wow.
I just came up with it. Just
No, I no, but it's powerful, because yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense to me.
May I?
Yes,
So,
please.
with what you just shared there, I mean, obviously this is something, it's deeply rooted. This is something that, of course, we know, we experience once we're blessed to, of course, that this is something that is divine and also inspired as well. Something that is particularly interesting is that you mentioned that you would have had this inspiration since you were a child, and then, of course, you would have gone through these steps. But what about with children reading it now? Was that your intention with this, to be able, of course, to carry on the legacy, but hopefully spark that spirit within them as well?
Well, the thing about folklore is, folklore is are civilizational stories. They're stories where the kind of ethics of a civilization are passed on, right? And the thing is that the thing that has survived the 70,000 years of human civilization plus and that kind of stuff have been the stories, right? And has been the law more than any other thing, you know. And it has been the magical stories, and a lot of times it's the stories of the animals and those kinds of things. So there's something about that already, you know. So there is that the magic that's located there. But again, what remind me?
Well, just asking if when you were doing this now, when you got to the point where you started creating this book, did you do it with the intention of also, I guess, passing down that knowledge and maybe sparking that divine connection?
At the heart of all of that is the child, right? So, you know, it's the reason why George Lucas and Star Wars wins every game, you know, is like because there's another person who understood, you know, Jim Henson and the Creature Shop, you know, Sesame Street and Muppet Show and all those things. Those the ones who understand the child, the inner child, right? The always of the child, no matter how old you get, and no matter the myth of adulthood, you know, the thing that matters and the thing at the heart and the thing that will save us, if anything is to save us, is the child. And that is the person or the force or the being that is spoken to in law, you know. And so that's who I speak to. And so I love children. I love children and old people. Adults, you know, like, you know, it's like, you know,
100%.
you know, so that's who I speak to. That's who my audience is. And it's that being inside everybody, and I think that's why it works. And of course there's a science to it, right? All of these things have deep structure. There's all kinds of structure, there's a science to all these stories and how they're structured and all these different kinds of things. And the more you know about your craft and the larger things, or archetypes and all those things, and the more you're able to invest all kinds of other things inside it. So the thing that I also understand is I remember being a child, and I remember how we loved and understood complex things, and I never want to forget that it wasn't the dumbed down things that we loved. It was things that treated us like beings, that kind of understood, especially stuff that kind of scared us in good ways, all these stories that resonate and that kind of stuff, it's like, Daddy, tell us the story again with it. It's like those are the ones that you want repeated again and again and again, right? Like that beautiful fear, that leads you into the thing with a guide and brings you out on the other side. That rhymes. So that is what I and so that's what I speak to, and that's the space I try to go to in anything that I'm doing. I don't you can't cheat, and you can't underestimate the child. Don't dumb it down for the child. Give the child the magic. The child wants the full weight, breadth, and depth of the magic. And so give it to them.
I love actually, let me track back. Traditionally, Anansi is seen as a male character. Why did you change it to a female character?
I didn't change it. She appeared.
Tell me more about that.
She appeared. Like you have to follow when it comes. It's like she appeared. She was standing there. I saw her fully formed. And so I had to pursue her, who is she? What does she want? Because I'd done all the research, I'd all these stories and that kind of stuff. So I was translating these 1,000-year-old stories into television. I had started, I have to figure out what does Anansi look like, because he looks a particular way, and you always say there were hundreds of superhero stories in the golden age of comics and stuff in the pre-1920s, thousands and thousands and thousands, but only one survived, and that was Superman, right? Because there was something about the myth, look, feel of him that resonated and conjugated an age and conjugated that thing of people, and in the same way there is. When you say Anansi, people all see this thing, one thing in their head. So the person who is able to conjugate that wins as a storyteller, right? Because there'll be 3,000 people going to write there, they're going to draw their Anansi, whatever. But the one who's able to conjugate the essence of that thing, and so that's what I spent my time doing. Like, that's why I listened to everything and read everything. And then I had to go inside and I had to do the maths and the science and come up with what he looks like. And having done that and adapting it, and which is another set of science and maths, she appears. And so it meant that probably those on the other side felt that, okay, you did the work. Now take it further for us. Getting emotional. But yes, that's how it happens. It's like, okay, you're one of the ones to take the stories further go. And so she appears, and I had now to do the work to find out who she was. And so she's leading me as much as I am creating. She's leading me. I would see things that she's doing that's way ahead of me, and I now have to catch up with her.
And in the land of monsters, you described it as a magical journey of girls to the other world, some type of story like Alice in Wonderland, The Wizard of Oz, Peter Pan, The Lion, The Witch, and the Wardrobe, which was one of my favorite books. Or even like the Greek myth of
Persephone.
Thank you, because I know I couldn't remember that one. And her abduction by Hades. Only this time, the story features an African Caribbean diaspora girl hero or who just happens to be a spider. Tell us what our listeners should be able to expect from this story.
So what I'll say is that each one of the Anansi books is a certain type of story type.
Yeah.
Right? So Anansi and the 10 Dragons, the first one was a quest myth. Right? So these all have specific deep structures and story forms and those kinds of things. They operate in a particular way. Right? So that's the kind of thing where the heroes give them a series of tests by some supernatural being or whatever. And
they have to
he has to go inside and outside to kind of, and then there's a boon at the end of it, right? And there's also a cost and, and all those things. So that was that was the frame. The second one was a detective story, right? Anansi and the Book of Night. So that was a detective story, right? Like a Sherlock Holmes or Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew or like an all those Secret Seven, Famous Five. So it was a detective story. So all those tropes and all those kinds of things and that kind of stuff. So this one is a girl in the other world type of story, like all of those
like
tropes.
A labyrinth almost? Or?
Yes. There's a type of myth or lore story that happened to be, that a lot of in the West, the kind of patriarchal nature of a lot of the art and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of boys stories for men and boys and whatever. But the strange thing is there's a small section of stories called Girls in the Other World where young girls of prepubescent age are taken or fall or guided or wander into these lands which are other world lands, right? Which are like the upside down lands, right? The lands of the id. And where they encounter, lands of, creatures and all, like it's all the kind of the nightmare kind of version or the paradisal version of what their normal world is. And they have a series of magical kinds of encounters and those kinds of things, allies, tra-la-la-la-la. And again, they have to overcome internal and external things to be able to return to the world with gifts and boons, right? And so that's the type of story, like all those that you mentioned. So this, as I said, this is a handful of them in the West, but they happen to be some of the greatest, most magical stories in the story. Right? So they're really the stories of girls becoming adults. It's the story of
kind of a coming of age,
puberty and menstruation and adulthood and all the magic of and complexities of all of that, but told in this kind of form. And they also are incredible societal stories as well. They tell a lot about the societies they come from. So I wanted to write one that was ours, that features a girl from our space that looks like us and that rhymes like us and those kinds of things, and goes through an adventure that is like that, So I hope I did it justice, So yeah, so that's Anansi. And it's also partially, the tale is told in flashbacks. So the flashbacks are incidents that happen in the first two books, but we now kind of see what is really happening kind of behind the scenes in a lot of those things. And the kind of, the hidden stories behind those things. And it's told from her childhood, the young adulthood, up to her adulthood, right up to the present where we left off in the second book, right up to the,
So that's how they're connected.
So you would have given us, I can say a timeline with from youth learning, going through, doing all of the research. But what about specifically the books that we have now with us? What was that process like? You did say, of course, that she's leading you.
Right.
So I can only imagine that it probably hasn't been linear, to say the least. But maybe if you could just share with us, being able to perhaps compile everything, how long has it taken you so far?
So I first wrote that story as that television thing in 1996.
Okay.
Right. So for this television series, that it was stolen from me. That project was stolen, and so so I I let them go with the money and
Yeah.
do whatever. And I kept my stories.
Good.
And so I just had them, they were just there. And, and I became an activist for like almost 20 years and battling. And I returned to my art. And when I had to make the decision to be an artist again after like 20 years being an activist and fighting for the community, I had to take care of my dad, right? Cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's. I was to be his caregiver for like 6 years before he passed in 2018. And so I had to ask myself, like, I needed to get back into my artist because activism involved poverty. So, I had to get back earning to be able to take care of that. And so I said, I work in 8 art forms, music, TV, film, carnival, all kinds of different things. I said, like, which is the one that enables me to make the most amount of money in the shortest space of time, and that I'm going to enjoy doing, and it gives me time, and it gives me all these other kinds of things. And I decided to create a theater company, the YBN Folklore Theater Company. The idea is master artisan, elder artisan costumes and sets, right? Because I'm working as an activist with all the great artisans of Carnival, Ramlila, Jose, and those kinds of things. I wanted to be able to take that, and because my muse and North Stars, George Lucas, Jim Henson, Calvary Company, Peter Minshall, those kinds of things. I wanted to create something of that, and then with modernity, work with like the top young animators and those kinds of things, because characters and sets would be animated, right? Partially, So I was working with modernity and ancestral and elder crafts and stuff. So I created that, and the first thing I did was dusted out all those old stories. They were there already.
Yeah.
Right? And I put them on stage, and they immediately, like, plus all the research I had done, because I knew I wanted to do a folklore company. So all of those things are in service of ancestral, contemporary, and futurist folklore, right? Which is what that early series was kind of about. And we were a hit, like, people were like,
Yes, it
like,
I remember.
I went to see.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
And so, but that one story was the one that was the most, that of all, and I just put on all of them. I just put all of them, and they all had the same charge for me. But people just kept coming back. The one with the dragons, it like it's like schools and that kind of stuff. Like, you're doing the one with the dragons, but didn't you see that already, or you saw that twice? It's like we want to see that. Like they're coming back again and again, and it's like there's something about this story and her.
Yeah.
I get emotional again. So you're like, it's something about it. And so at the same time, I still thought it was a one-off story and that kind of stuff. And then on the night where after we did the first performance, we were, after the entire run, we were striking the set at Little Carib. So they were taking on all the things, lights were coming off and that kind of stuff. And I was sitting down there just like, dwelling in,
Yeah.
It went well, and I'm also resting and that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, I saw her on stage. She was standing on stage, and there was caution tape all around her. And there was a chalk mark of something on the ground. And the lights were going off, and she was like standing there. This is, of course, she's not there in real life. She was in my head, And I was like, okay. And the lights go off in the theater, just as like in my imagination they go off with her standing in this thing, and then the lights come back on, and I see her surrounded by like these 6 or 7 bats with crowns, right? And they're carnival bats, Trinidad carnival bats, right? So in the first one, the kind of carnival dragons, the master artisan carnival dragons kind of led that. And now these carnival bats were there, and I was like, okay. So now I have to go and find that story. Like what? So it means that she's not finished with me, that she wants to go further. Like it wants to go further.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized it was a series. Yeah. And that's when I started to go inside and realize, okay, no, this is what I'm doing. I'm telling this story of the lineage and that kind of stuff. And that's what I'm doing. And so from that was actually the moment where the series and the whole expanded universe of the Kingdom of Animals and all the the grander mythology and all that other kinds of stuff. That's where it was born, with that vision, you know. And that's what they cover up the second book, you know, and find it. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, that's so divinely inspired.
So I mean, that's how we are as artists. It's like that's any artist will tell you.
You're very sensitive to it. And,
tell you. Well,
wow.
We all have it, you know, and all people have it.
Oh, and seeing the picture on the book of the book 2.
Right. And
is that vision?
Yeah, and and then you know, the most beautiful thing is that I was able to put it on as a play.
Yeah.
And replicate that exact same thing. I mean, I know I'm very fortunate in life to be able to do things like that.
Yeah.
I don't take any of those things for granted. You know that you know, it's like here it is again as a
Oh wow.
Yes.
you know, with the digital background and the traditional theater costumes created by Winston Daniel, the great bat and dragon maker and those kind of things. So to be able to do those kinds of things, you know. There was a story that my dad told me as a child. I call it The Boy and His Dog. And so it was this story of this little boy living with his grandmother in a small village and that kind of stuff. And his grandmother's a really good person, but she had one weakness: she liked to gossip a lot. He's a good little boy, and one day he does this really good deed for this old man, and the old man gives him this gift of a puppy, right? The dog turns out to be magical, and anytime the boy gets in trouble, a bucket of water turns to blood. And the dog knows that the boy is in trouble and races off to wherever and saves him, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So just that image of this bucket of water turning to blood, you know, and and so there's a forest, and you're not supposed to go into the forest because there's supposed to be a witch inside there that eats little children.
Oh, dear.
Of course, his best friends, they go off into the thing, and he hears them scream and whatever, and he has to go
And save
after them. He meets an old woman. She tells him, yes, I saw your friends. And he follows the old woman to her home. And she says, well, let's go inside and get something, and then we'll go looking and thing. And then some voices come out from inside of her belly. And it is the children who have been eaten, singing and warning him.
Wow. That is...
Lord. It's like, you know. And so he knows, he's warned what's about to happen. So he starts to run. She starts to beat her belly, and these imps and stuff start to jump out and start to go after this boy. Now, he had also done a deed for an old woman earlier on as well, and she gave him like a series of, it's either seeds or stones, 3 stones, right? To use it, you know, anytime he's in trouble and that kind of stuff. So he pelts one of the stones, and it grows this forest, right? And it blocks the imps, but the imps all have axes, and they cut down the first one, and they gaining on him. He throws the second one, same thing happens. They chop it down, and they're gaining on him, and he's seeing the last part of the forest to exit the forest. He throws the last one. It grows, and they chop it down, and they catch him just before he is able to leave. He climbs up the tallest tree. Wow. And they begin to chop down this tallest, biggest tree. And the witch appears in a full form with her cauldron or her pot. You know, it's the flavor of like, preparing the thing for the boy. And meanwhile, where's the dog?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
The grandmother has throwing a party back at the village. She has tied the dog because she's inside gossiping and saying all the whole village and that kind of stuff. And the dog is barking and straining, and the bucket of water turns to blood, and it bubbling over and all those kinds of things. And it's tied, and so I can't tell you what happens here. Come to the Like,
Oh my
I would buy the book when I do it, you know. But this is a story that I never saw in any books. There's nowhere in any.
Listen,
I
I already
just-
see the whole film.
It have Creole songs and all kinds of say French Creole songs, all these kinds of things, and this, fully formed from my father's imagination or wherever it came from, and all during our childhood, we were like, "Daddy, you can tell us this story about it," like and terrified out of our minds,
I'm
and,
terrified. I'm a full-grown
you
woman.
know, and I had the ability to put on this story with 30-foot Peter Minshall type puppet costumes to represent the witch and the thing she transforms into and that kind of stuff. We were working on animatronic dog, all kinds of stuff, and and to put it on with the digital thing and the animated imps and the live imps and the animated things and and all of that for my dad at 87 or 80, whatever, with Alzheimer's, cancer, diabetes, for him to see, and he's like, being able to do that is what you begin to understand what it means to be alive, to be part of a civilization, to be a storyteller, to be part of that round of things that give back and how things are passed on. Because all my life I knew I was always nursing this story because I'd never seen it anywhere else. It's like I have a duty to this story, that he passed on from whatever lineage of that. I have a duty, and and I have the ability to put it on in this grander kind of way, and so that is the, to me, that that's about, that's what I'm that's why I do what I do.
So important, spreading light, being the light in community.
And we've gone over. We've come to the end. I don't want it to end, Rubadiri, quite
You all
frankly.
ask really good questions.
That's what we do. We do that very well. Where can people?
So we deliver books anywhere in the island. So that's one of the reasons why it's sold so phenomenally and those kinds of things. So give me a buzz, 1-868-797-0949. 1-868-797-0949. So we drive all over the island, deliver books signed and those kinds of things. So the books, the 3 books, there's postcards, Anansi postcards, there are posters, there are jerseys, there's a Nancy doll.
There's a Nancy merch.
Yes, all of these things, you grew up as a child of the 80s. Yes, like, it's like your hero is not a hero until it have a doll.
Oh, 100%.
It's like,
it's
and
so
so
true.
it's a plush doll is the beginning.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
like
look how cute.
It's an Anansi plush doll.
Look how
So-
cute.
If you see it, folks, it is beautiful. It's beautiful. It's well made.
Yes, exceptions.
Wow.
This Tamia, she's like incredible.
Made
Anime.
in Trinidad and
She's a-
Tobago,
Yeah,
folks.
she's an anime. She makes these anime
Yeah, these are handmade.
dolls and stuff.
This is incredible.
Yeah,
I am buying this for my niece for Christmas.
Okay, great.
Done.
Like, so like, and so when I saw her work, I was searching for some who can do these dolls and this kind of thing, and I saw what she did, and I said, okay, that's the person, and
So well
we did the
made.
first prototype, and then I corrected some things and that kind of stuff, and she did it. I was like, yeah, boy, it's incredibly well made.
Yeah.
It is incredibly, incredibly well made.
Oh,
This is an incredibly powerful object and symbol as well.
Yeah.
That is for sure. You can just hold it and look at her and definitely understand the value of the journey and the value of your work.
I just want to say
Amazing.
thank you. Thank you for continuing to walk in your power. Please continue to do so, Rubadiri, and sharing your stories.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
going
yeah.
to
I mean,
outlive
like,
you
people
and
make it
whatnot.
difficult at
So,
times,
team-
but like,
We have about a minute left
Yeah.
before the end of the show.
So this is
Um,
the black and white. So this is a friend of mine called Randall Watley, incredible digital artist, who does these. He does paintings from my black and whites, right? So like this is my black and white of that,
yeah.
and then he does, and so the postcards and those kinds of things we're going to be doing collectibles, trading cards, like
awesome.
game cards, a whole game with a whole game and those kinds of things, and Anansi cards with all the characters and all the other kinds of things. So that's going to come hopefully early next year, and also look out for that. And yeah, give us a
So
buzz.
we have to say goodbye, but Rubadiri, more than welcome to come back
Yeah,
for
please
sure.
do. Please come back.
No problem.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, it's time for your news right here on Talk City 91.1 FM. Short Pants is already outside. We'll be back with you next week, Saturday.
Your business to the next level? Let Talk City 91.1 FM help you reach thousands of potential customers daily. Our sales team is ready to craft the perfect advertising package just for you.